He promised her the world, but the world came crashing down when Yara found out her husband wasn't only plotting behind her back, he was arranging to marry someone else, halfway across the globe, while she devoted every cent and ounce of trust to build their dream. The cameras caught the smiles, the hugs, the fairy tale vows, but what they couldn't show was the late-night phone glow of betrayal, the money vanishing, and the heartbreak pouring out online for millions to dissect. If you thought reality TV was scripted, what happened next was something no one, not even Yara or the most jaded fans, could have written. Is loyalty ever enough? Or does trust always come with an expiration date you don't see coming? Everybody remembers the proposal, the baby, all those sweet family moments, but the truth was growing quietly in the shadows, about to rip everything wide open. And when it did, when the receipts started dropping, one question echoed in every corner of the 90-day Fiancé universe. Did anyone see this coming, or were we all fooled, start to finish? You won't believe how fast everything unraveled once the secrets hit the light. Once upon a time in the twisted world of reality TV, Yara and Jovi seemed like one of those rare 90-day couples who could survive the chaos. Fans cheered for them every step, holding on to the hope that love could win out over messy in-laws, wild parties, and culture shock. Ukrainian glam meets Louisiana swamp, and if that's not a recipe for television gold, what is? They argued, sure, he wanted the New Orleans nightlife, she wanted stability, but they always circled back to each other, clinging to little Mila and their picture-perfect Instagram life. Team Yara shouted down every skeptic in the comments, convinced she could handle anything Jovi threw her way. And admitted, there was a time when even the haters were watching, waiting for her to call his bluff, but every time it looked like they might snap, nope, they'd bounce back, matching couple selfies uploaded for the haters to stew over. But behind the cute baby updates and quirky couple fights, cracks had already started to show. While fans were sipping cocktails and commenting fire emojis, the foundation was starting to shift. The party boy jokes were getting old, and even Yara's best supporters started wondering how much patience anyone could have for disappearing acts, suspicious DMs, and club nights that turned into whole weekends. Some called it cultural difference, others blamed Jovi's offshore work schedule, but the nerves were raw and thin. Still, no one expected what was brewing under their nose, or how high the stakes had already gotten. If you ever thought love could conquer all, this was about to be a test none of us wanted to see in real time. And the question hanging in the air wasn't just, can they make it? But, what are you willing to risk before you finally walk away? Because what was about to play out would force everyone, fans and family included, to pick a side and hold on tight. What drove someone who seemed so independent to give up everything she'd built for a dream in a new country? And at what point does holding on stop looking like hope and start looking like denial? That's where things stood when the real drama began to unfold. And let's be honest, nobody was ready for the tornado about to rip through their marriage. Every perfect couple moment had a shadow. And the people who thought they'd seen every twist on 90-Day Fiancé hadn't seen anything yet. So let's rewind to the days when everything looked almost normal, at least as normal as reality television ever allows. Jovi would say he was working late, and Yara would pretend not to notice when his phone was flipped face down on the kitchen counter. There's casual, and then there's suspicious, and this man lived in that blurry area where all good and something's off play musical chairs. Forget plot twists. This was more like watching a magician who could never quite keep his sleeves down. Late-night texts that ended the moment Yara walked in the room, laughter that faded too quickly, stories that got exchanged like costumes before a big show. Everybody who's ever loved someone a little too much knows that sinking feeling, the one where you're scrolling through Instagram pretending to believe in happiness, while your gut tells a different story. The fans saw it on her face weeks before the reveal, the nervous smiles during confessionals, the way her questions started off playful but always landed sharp. There are moments when reality TV almost feels like a mirror, and this was one of those times. How many of us have convinced ourselves it's nothing, right before it turns out to be everything? Yara tried to hold it together, presenting a front even her closest friends couldn't quite see through. But loving someone who's turning shifty is like watering a plant that never blooms. No matter how much patience you give, You end up watching yourself fade too. The tension buzzed every time Jovi left for work. Will he even remember to check in tonight? Or does out of sight, out of mind really work for him? You'd see her start scrolling through his call logs, trying to decode international numbers and half answers. Fans split into two camps: the loyalists who shouted, "Trust your man, girl," and the skeptics who lit up Reddit threads with their receipts, screen-grabbing every suspicious move. Here's where things get spicy. The late-night calls supposedly for clients overseas, the silent walks out onto the balcony with his phone lighting up like he's trading Bitcoin at 2 a.m. Yara asked once, then twice, then stopped asking. Sometimes silence is louder than any argument, and she wore that quiet like armor. Meanwhile, Jovi evolved into a master of the half-truth. He had his lines ready, probably practicing in the bathroom mirror. "Babe, it's work stuff, don't worry," but who believes that after you've seen this man grin through bigger lies on national TV? The world loves a scandal, but nobody likes being the last to know. You could feel the room get colder each time she managed a tight smile at dinner or dodged the "when is baby number 2?" talk. Meanwhile, his attention drifted like he was always on the lookout for the nearest exit, physically and emotionally. But the receipts kept coming. Social media sleuths sharpened their digital pitchforks, pulling up flight records and accidental likes on mystery accounts. The most diehard fans turned into amateur detectives, matching timestamps and call patterns like it was a true crime podcast instead of a marriage fallen off the rails. If you'd been watching from the start, you felt it shift. The relationship that began as fireworks in the sky now flickered like a dying flashlight. Something had changed, but the smoking gun was still hiding. Was it work stress or something way bigger? These are the moments where audience theories get loud, and even the cast's friends started to look uncomfortable on screen, side eyes multiplying in every group scene. There's a certain kind of dread that creeps in slowly. At first, it's easy to laugh off. There's "my husband's a workaholic" jokes, the Instagram QAs where everything is great, thanks, the way both of them get defensive when someone brings up trust. But denial is expensive, and sometimes the bill comes in the middle of the night. The calls increased, time zones stopped adding up, and if you listen closely, you heard it in Yara's voice, a mix of worry and self-preservation. As much as she wanted to believe in her fairy tale, the cracks in the story got harder to fill each day. And in classic 90-day fashion, every fan found a favorite theory to root for. Some called Jovi a lost cause, always chasing the next shiny distraction. Others gave him the benefit of doubt, blaming TLC editing or the pressure of being a new dad on TV. But week after week, the suspense built. Was he cheating, or was she just too quick to suspect? Why did a guy who had everything suddenly act like he had something to hide? If you scroll back through old episodes, you'll notice little moments everyone missed at first. A shared glance that went nowhere, a compliment that felt forced, a half-hearted apology over dinner. It's easy to roll your eyes at reality TV therapy sessions, but when even the professionals look uncomfortable, you know things are spiraling. Yara, once the tough queen of Instagram, looked strangely small in the presence of all those half-answers. Does anyone else notice how reality TV always seems to save the messiest reveals for when the audience least expects it? Here's where the mood flips from mild anxiety to full popcorn mode. She starts saving screenshots. DMs pop up. Anonymous tips get juicier. The clues point to more than distraction. There's motive, there's opportunity, and the fans smell blood in the water. Even loyal viewers swap theories in the comment sections, splitting into camps over who's to blame. Yara stops defending him online, but she hasn't called it yet. People watch every move now, waiting for a slip. You couldn't write tension like this if you tried. Every suspicious text, every click of the hide notifications button, every slightly too casual brush-off became a receipt waiting to be tallied up. The game changed, and not everyone realized the stakes had shot through the roof. Yara's protectiveness of her new life, her daughter, and her grind suddenly took center stage. Fans could read between the lines, guessing at what she wasn't saying. The loyalty she showed early on had shifted, replaced with something colder, sharper, and honestly, pretty relatable for anyone who's ever been burned. How long would she keep playing along? If you're rooting for her, You felt every "I'm fine" like a punch in the gut. You know he kept saying it was all in her head, but the pattern was undeniable. Trust isn't just about honesty. It's about showing up on time, answering when it matters, and not making your wife feel like she's always the last person to know. In a season filled with dramatic fights and teary agreements, nothing stings quite like the slow collapse only the closest ones can sense. Will she confront him or hold the secret longer? What will hurt more, the truth or the proof you already saw coming? The next piece of the puzzle was about to drop, and even the most seasoned armchair detectives weren't ready for what Yara would find next. Everything was always about to snap, and everyone could sense it, even when they refused to believe it. This wasn't a story about heroes and villains. It was about what happens when the fantasy gets shredded by reality, and only the bravest stay in the room for the fallout. The story exploded faster than anyone could scroll. 1 second, it was all filtered selfies and family brunches. The next, rumors were ricocheting through group chats and Twitter threads, fans on edge, and people who had never cared about 90-Day Fiancé suddenly glued to whatever leak, cryptic caption, or side comment hit the feed. Not all betrayals are created in private. Some are staged on the biggest possible stage, with followers counting every tear and dollar lost. When the receipts finally surfaced, it wasn't only about late-night calls or weird business trips. We're talking hundreds of thousands in the balance. Yara's money, her safety net, invested into a so-called family future that turned out to be a trapdoor. The trust she handed over, dollar by dollar, was swept out of her account and out from under her feet, fueling a life she never saw coming. The audience gasped. The drama wasn't just heartbreak, it was financial. It was humiliating. It was public, and the internet did what the internet does best. Picked sides, picked apart, picked at wounds until everyone involved was bruised. Imagine opening your phone, seeing your private heartbreak trending, strangers commenting on your marriage contract, and your intelligence. The truth of betrayal isn't the only pain in this world. It's the humiliation of millions of eyes watching how you cope, laughing at your worst moment or turning your pain into meme currency. If you ever thought reality TV was cruel, nothing prepares you for when the comment section gets weaponized. This wasn't just a breakup, it was a reckoning. People forget, sometimes, that real lives cradle every episode. Yara's independence, hard-won and loudly celebrated, suddenly looked heartbreakingly fragile. The money she sacrificed?
Gone.
Her faith in the man she'd chosen?
Gone.
Overnight, the perfect couple story became a cautionary tale of what happens when the people closest to you turn into strangers with keys to your front door. The honeymoon glow gets replaced by cold silence, legal notices, and the buzz of phones that never ring with good news. That's not TV drama, that's pain with a PIN number. But as always, the internet decided it needed to judge. Insta comments split into camps, one group yelling she should have seen it coming, another reminding everyone how easy it is to trust when you're in love, and a toxic minority that somehow found a way to make her pain about their amusement. Fan pages turned into mock trial courts, tracking every story update, every new filing, every moment one of them went live. Yara filed lawsuit after lawsuit, not just for the cash but for dignity, her final push for the truth to be acknowledged, not just whispered about among strangers drinking tea at midnight. Public opinion? Swinging like a fence gate in a hurricane. Some wanted Jovi locked up and the keys thrown away. Some called it a setup, a ratings ploy, a weird new arc for a couple who always seemed one fight away from breaking anyway. The rest stared, trying to process how the same people who once looked so invincible were now reduced to war stories about money and infidelity. That emotional whiplash, from favorite couple to public cautionary meme, hit harder than whiskey shots in a New Orleans bar. But take a breath here. Is all the blame as easy as the crowd makes it out to be? People can fall for charm and promises, sure. It's happened to the smartest, most cynical, most world-weary of us. Loyalty turns to blind spots at the speed of heartbreak. When the family you built with bare hands crumbles, the courts might hand you closure, but social media never does. Viewers can argue about who moved on, who should have left, who's at fault, but only the ones who lived through it know what sleepless nights taste like, and how hard it is to stay silent when everything inside you is screaming for the world to believe you. The legal fallout started getting real headlines. This wasn't an oops or a reconciliation arc. Yara showed up with evidence, the numbers matching up to the story her ex could no longer deny. The courtroom drama painted in black and white what had been so gray for so long. The betrayal wasn't emotional only, but financial, and the receipts didn't lie. Money can be replaced, but respect can't. The day judgment hit, dollars ordered back, a jail sentence dropped, apology never truly given, it sent another shockwave through the fanbase, a strange mix of vindication and fresh grief. If you ask fans who lost more, the debate never settles. Did Jovi throw away the only person who ever gave him real roots? Or did Yara gamble on love in a way anyone could have done? If you lend your heart and your savings, where's the line between hope and risk? Maybe it's less about who failed and more about how you rebuild when the game resets. Your squad watching from the sidelines, your tear-streaked face suddenly the thumbnail to every news story trending. The biggest question fans ask, quietly or not, could this happen to anyone? Is trust ever safe when the stakes lower your defenses? Yara didn't get her money back in full, or even half the piece she'd probably trade it for. But she got what everyone watching hopes for in their darkest moment, the strength to turn humiliation into proof, to let the receipts speak, to walk away with honor when the crowd expects tears. It's easy to score points from the couch, but anyone who's had a secret ripped open by someone they loved knows the bravest move isn't the lawsuit or revenge post. It's looking yourself in the eye the morning after and choosing not to let that betrayal define your next chapter. This wasn't just a juicy tabloid mess. It was what happens when the show ends, the credits roll, and real people have to pick up the pieces in public. Would you have managed to fight back or fallen apart? That's the question that kept the fans talking long after the episode ended. It never starts with fireworks. The first real confrontation between Yara and Jovi happened in a quiet, cold living room with the walls closing in and no rehearsal for what comes next. Some betrayals break loud, but this one was an accumulated ache, a slow build from every ignored red flag, every midnight doubt that used to get pushed away in the daylight. Yara gathered every scrap of proof quietly, calmly. When she stepped to Jovi, her words were steady, more icy than explosive, practiced after too many sleepless nights spent rethinking every detail and every "I love you" that had gone stale. He tried to deny at first. Reflex. Not just to trick her, but maybe to stall the story he knew was about to roll out across every group chat, every cast text thread, every social feed stuck on their highlight reel. But this time she had more than suspicion. She brought actual receipts, a trail of financial records, cold details that couldn't be talked around. Faces don't lie when the evidence drops. You could almost feel history shifting in that moment. Yara wasn't begging. She was extracting the truth, piece by piece, each fact another crack spreading through what little trust remained. He apologized, but only piece by piece. Not all at once. Real admissions never show up with a bow. They burst out, ugly and incomplete, and each sentence left a bruise. Yara wanted answers, not comfort, and on this day the audience watching saw a woman forever changed. You could see confidence flickering underneath the heartbreak, that fire every smart fan had seen before, now untamed and boiling over. The reality is social media only catches the highlights. The comment threads see the loudest, least complicated versions: cheater, victim, hero, villain. Behind those walls, the fallout is lonelier. The day a marriage ends in front of millions is a far meaner day than what Instagram can hold. When the apology videos stop, when the DMs slow down, and when even the closest friends start avoiding eye contact, there's nothing left to do except face yourself and the empty house. But both were changed. Yara's resilience grew sharper. Every time she doubted herself for asking the hard questions came back to pay off, fueling a different kind of pride. She took her pain and documented it, turned proof into protection, anger into action. For Jovi, the regret runs quieter. You sense it in the way he tried defending, then receding, uncomfortable always in the glare of reality TV, but doubly so with nothing left to spin. He had always been polarizing, funny, charming, wild, careless, and some would say the show made him. others that it broke him. Maybe both. Maybe the story isn't about casting either of them as the villain. Maybe it's about two flawed people who gambled with their happiness and misread the rules. Fans are quick to judge, but even the fiercest critics saw the exhaustion in Jovi's eyes and the heartbreak in Yara's. Who hasn't tried to protect what they built, even if it meant covering up cracks way too long? It isn't all malice and manipulation. Sometimes it's pure fear, running from change, desperate to keep even the messiest love alive. If there's a lesson behind the clickbait, it's that heartbreak never follows a script, and neither does survival. Not every pain can be fixed with apologies, and not every ending needs to be tragic. Yara left stronger not only for having exposed the truth, but for refusing to let the fallout eat her alive. She faced every headline, every joke, and every cold morning when moving forward seemed impossible. Jovi leaves with hard lessons and a past that trails behind him, but not total ruin. The show goes on, as it always does, but the people inside it change forever. What fans missed behind the memes and edits was the silent, private struggle, the moment the camera's cut and all you hear is your own breath in the dark. That's where real strength surfaces and real regret sets in. You can't film that. You can't fake it. Only the ones who have lost themselves and managed to resurface know how hard that final climb is. Life beyond reality TV? For the first time, Yara gets to write her own story without a team of producers arranging every crisis. She gets to pick what part of herself survives, and maybe even find something softer, less guarded in the ruins. Jovi faces his choices with the whole world watching, but even he is more than his worst days. Sometimes, losing on camera is what finally breaks the spell. And if you think the story ends here, you haven't learned how quickly the 90-day universe spins new drama out of nothing. The next move is always closer than you think, and nobody stays down for long. In the end, it's not about who looked better on camera or who won the court battle. This was two people trying to build something real in a world that never lets you live privately. Yara didn't just leave a marriage, she left behind a story that's both scar and shield. She knew when to stop pouring herself into something empty and stepped into a freedom that cost years off her life, but might finally let her heal. No amount of social media cleanup changes how hard it is to reconcile what looked like a dream with how it actually ended. She gets to carry her head high now, even while carrying grief, because no one gets to write her ending for her anymore. Jovi walks away changed, possibly more self-aware than the party boy label ever allowed. He's marked by choices, by public fallout, but also by those rare glimpses of honesty when the mask dropped. Maybe the hardest part is realizing that you don't get to explain yourself fully when your mistakes play out as entertainment for millions. Regret lingers, but so does the chance to do things differently from here, if he pays attention. What's left for the fanbase is the haunting realization that you never truly know a couple, no matter how many hours you watch or how close you feel to their disaster. It's a reminder, love, money, loyalty, none of it guarantees a happy ending, especially when the whole world is watching and waiting for the next implosion. This isn't just about a split, it's about the cost of fame and the real price people pay behind the glitter of updates and confessionals. But the twist no one saw coming is what happens when the cameras turn to someone else, and these two are left as footnotes in a bigger saga. Will new scandals outshine theirs?
Count on it.
But the lessons echo, and everyone scrolling for the next train wreck is still rooting, quietly, sometimes secretly, for Yara to find solid ground and for Jovi to figure out who he is without the distraction. Maybe the next shock will come sooner than you think. Because if you thought this breakup was wild, wait until you see what happens when trust gets tested all over again, and brand new secrets start surfacing in the most unexpected places.